Okay, so good morning, everyone. First, I'd like to thank all the presenters for their very informative presentations. So my name is Amel Benaissa. I come from Algeria, and I'm a teacher at the University of Mouloud Mamri. And I'm here today to share with you my experience with my students in relation to teaching vocabulary. So the aim is to see the impact of online Quizlets and digital flashcards to enhance students' retention, memorization, and also recall of vocabulary. Before starting, I'd like first to give an overview of what the point that I'm going to cover in my presentation. So because it's an experimentation that I have started with my students, I have conducted with my students, I will mention the main objectives. Then I will move to the theoretical part of the research, and then I will explain the methodology that I have used, and then I will present the results that will give information about, I would say, the shortcomings and the benefits of the website that I have used. So the main objective was for me to enhance my students' passive vocabulary, control active vocabulary, and free active vocabulary, because a lot of my students complain, and most of them always complain about the fact that they do understand certain English words, but they always fail to use them deliberately in conversations or when writing. And this is because they first need to know that there are different types of lexis, which the passive one. So for passive, it means the ability to understand words, but without using them. For control active vocabulary, it means the ability to understand words and also be able to use them, but only in prompted tasks. As for free active vocabulary, which is really the one that the students need to master, and it's the ability to use the new words that they have acquired spontaneously in conversations or when writing. I will start, well, there are two ways of learning, and vocabulary can be acquired and it can also be learned. Incidental learning is the natural one, that it means acquiring a language subconsciously without any effort. But the problem with countries like Algeria and many other North African countries is that English is not the first language, and it's not really used in our day-to-day conversations. So the input, the ALLT input is very, very limited. And there is this lack of exposure to the English language. The only way they get to listen or they cannot really use English in their everyday life. So this is why deliberate learning or learning in the classroom is needed, and it's the job of the teacher to try to design some activities and tasks that can really enhance like conscious and the conscious effort of memorizing words and also using them actively. Well, for the advocates of explicit learning, mainly the cognitivists, even if cognitivism is not really a theory that initially aims at explaining the role of technology, it can really, the principles of cognitivism can justify the use of some technological resources. And the aim, or we can say the question, is how to maximize the learning process and how to maximize the cognitive process of learners to help to facilitate this acquisition of new vocabulary, not only memorization, not only retention, but also recall and active use of vocabulary. In other words, the aim would be for learners to learn the vocabulary from or to transfer it from working memory, which is limited in capacity, because this is the first contact that students, when they have their first contact with the language, it's like an introduction with the working memory and how it can be transferred to long-term memory, which is larger in capacity, and where the learners can use vocabulary more spontaneously. Okay, so there are three elements that need to be considered. First is salience, or attention. It is the job of the teacher to make to select the words that he or she wants the students to acquire. And repetition, it does not really mean rote learning, but meaningful repetition, or in other words, you can say repeated exposure to language, and feedback. And for feedback, the students should not only memorize new vocabulary, they should also use the words in sentences and see whether they are able to use them correctly and appropriately. And for them to do so, they need to get feedback from their teachers and also from their classmates. So I'm going to share my experience with a website called Quizlets that includes both digital flashcards and only digital flashcards and other online games. I've taken some screenshots of the website. So the difference between traditional flashcards and digital flashcards is that for traditional flashcards, they come only in the form of written texts. But with digital ones, they are visual. They are both acoustically and visually stimulating, which can help really students learn better and memorize the words better. So this is just a screenshot of my space with my students. What I have done is categorized the words because I'm a teacher of listening and speaking, and like sometimes we don't really have enough time to give much attention to the words, only the words. We have to focus on other aspects like pronunciation, like accuracy, like fluency, and it would be really beneficial. It's even more beneficial to give more activities to students outside the classroom. So I have grouped all the words, the new words that I want my students to learn. We have technology, health, medicine, education, with different definitions. So what does wireless mean? Spam, censorship, cutting edge, because my students have pre-intermediate levels, so they really, so we have also the audio and the writing. And here are the different types of exercises tasks that they can use. We have digital flashcards, writing, where they are given the word and they have to guess the meaning, spelling, they can be given an overall test. Some of the activities, most of the activities are free, but I believe the last one is not, but still I think these ones can help. Okay, so this is another exercise where they have to enter the term and guess the meaning. And this is the last exercise, where this is an exercise where their spelling is tested, and it can be very helpful because I mean, sometimes students memorize some words, but they don't know how to use them. And it's not until they use language that they realize that they make mistakes, and this really helps them correct their mistakes. So this is it for this part. Okay, so now I move to the methodology of my research. What I have done, I've conducted a small quasi-experimental research.
Left.
Okay. I've conducted a small experimental study with 30 students. I had 15 students from the control group and 15 other students from the experimental group. The control group had its regular program, and for the experimental group students, they were introduced to the platform. They were asked to use it twice a week. I mean, not twice a week, they were asked to use it for 2 weeks and try the exercises as many times as they could. I have tested their ability, their vocabulary knowledge before and after the training. So this is just an example. So what do the results of my research reveal? They reveal that the students improved their vocabulary and control vocabulary, but not their active free vocabulary, which means that they were able to understand the meaning of these new words. They were able to use them in some tasks, but they were not really able to use them in when writing paragraphs or when having conversations. And the reason why they fail to do so, I believe, is because the platform still lacks exercises that really are encourage the contextualized use of language and the deliberate use of languages. The exercises, most of them are still very, they are guided and they are controlled. So the students are not free to use these new words as they want, as they wish. So my conclusion is that, like any technological resource, technology should not be used only to replace traditional way of teaching, but it should be used to complement it, and it should reinforce students, teachers, classroom practices. So this brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you, and your questions are welcomed.
Great. Thank you so much, Amel.